Welcome to the Joy Quota Podcast. I'm Dylan Fole.
And I'm Gavin Malcolm.
Our guest tonight is Brittany Bock, former professional soccer player, all-around awesome human.
She is delightful and inspiring and just has so much healing and grace to give. And I really hope you guys enjoy this because we definitely did. If you meet me, you're going to get 100% of me right off the bat. I don't care if it makes you uncomfortable. You're just going to get everything I am within the first hello. And then it's up to you whether or not you want to hit the ball back over the net. I'm going to serve a nice lob over the net. And if you want, you can just let that land and end of the game. Or you can start hitting the ball back and we can see where this goes.
Yeah.
There's no
I think so.
dancing around it.
Because then if you're not yourself when you first meet someone, then you have to
It just gets weirder and weirder as you find out.
Well,
that's right. I have to
But there's also something to be said about easing people into your personality, perhaps, sometimes.
I'm sure there's
that's my technique, at least with,
I mean,
at least with girls.
People will find I'm way more weird than what I am. But just being myself.
See, I feel like on dates, I was I had turned it up a notch. I was I want you... if you're not in, you got to fart on the first date for sure. Because then, if they're cool, you know it. If they're you know what, we're all human, it's cool. Versus if you're
that's
trying to be
different.
So polished.
I mean, I'm not taking a girl up climbing on a construction crane on the first date. That's what I mean.
Would you want that though? Would you want someone to go climb cranes with? I feel like you need someone who has... Because I remember growing up, I was God, a BMX chick would be my favorite. And then one day, I was actually, that would be terrible. I'd never not be around that person.
You'd want a good balance.
Yeah, you need something But
that
Allie
still
has
loves
no
to do what
interest.
you like to do.
Exactly. Allie will come to the skate park or a show every now and again. And she's oh, that's kind of cool, I guess. She cheers me on, but also she's I have no interest in any of this. I tried to get her to ride a bike, and she was no, I'm good. I'm tired of falling already.
Oh, man.
Oh, bike on the shirt right there.
Wow.
I wore a bike shirt.
Those are my favorite colors.
So, I actually worked a massage event, the Betty Bike Bash. So,
oh, there you go. What is the Betty Bike Bash?
It was just a mountain bike race on Green Mountain.
Okay. Oh, yeah.
I think.
Okay.
It was 2 years ago.
Sweet.
But I just massaged all the riders that came off the race, so it was fun. We got this fun little shirt.
Oh.
And then I really wanted to get into mountain biking.
I can see you getting into it. A lot of nature.
Yeah.
Are you any good on a bike? Do you feel confident while pedaling around?
I do, but I don't. I have some funny stories. Oh, gosh. And actually, one time I was walking with my sister. It was last year or 2 years ago. And we were walking out kind of by Breck. And we were walking up a mountain bike trail. And where some guys were coming down. And you could do both. And I was oh, that's sick. I want to do that. And then Brittany's my sister's Brittany, you're going to get injured. And as we were walking, I slipped on gravel, fell. It was the most awkward. She's you are the most athletic person that I know.
Yeah.
So,
I think you'd be good at it.
But I think I would be. But I just need to...
not be broken.
Yeah.
See, I think you're one of those people where, when you're doing something athletic, you will never get hurt. It is when you're you're...
I'm focused.
Yeah, exactly.
I'm in it.
You're dialed in. It's when you're, walking on a random trail, or you're, barely being athletic, when you're oh, I can't believe I just blew my knee out or something. That's,
I've had a fun, this, yeah. But,
gosh.
Well, and it's probably all right on your foot, better than, hiking. Might be mountain biking.
Well, and that's what I was thinking. I want to get back into... after I stopped playing soccer, I'm I need something competitive.
Yeah.
I need something.
I need to be better than someone.
Yeah. Why am I like that? But yeah, I do.
Yeah.
I when I'm playing or doing something, I'm no, I need to beat them. Even
everyone.
If I am doing the incline. Have you guys ever done the incline?
I want to.
Okay, so I've done that. But I'm okay, I got to get the next person. Okay, I got to get the next person. I got to get the next person. And so when I'm doing stuff, when it's in a race type thing, but with my knees and all my other surgeries, I'm running is maybe not the best. Maybe I should get into biking. I really want to do an Ironman triathlon, but I'm like, let me just heal first. So
Yeah.
I get over my
sounds
head.
great, except for all of it.
Every single aspect,
I feel very confident about the biking portion.
Well, yeah.
But other than that, I'm a terrible swimmer.
100-mile bike
swimming,
ride?
I'd probably drown.
You feel confident on a 100-mile bike ride?
I think I could genuinely do that. I don't know if I'd
can't.
be incredibly quick.
You guys do all the crazy tricks
But I think,
and
like,
flips.
My body knows that motion well enough to push through 100 miles. It's like,
On
what,
a road
10-mile
bike?
run or something?
10, an Ironman
No,
is
it's
a
a
marathon.
marathon.
Oh, yeah. I genuinely would be impressed with myself if I did a 5-mile run. And then the swimming, I would for sure drown.
I think I would too.
I
I would
garbage
get
swimmer.
clocked in the head and panic.
Oh, it's not panic. It's genuine lack of talent. Allie is so good at swimming. And I remember the first time we went swimming together, she wouldn't stop laughing. Like, it took a while before she finally was like,
Were you doggy paddling?
no, but like, my body always is bike pedaling. Like, even when I'm in the water, that's the only motion my legs know how to do. When I'm running, I'm basically just pedaling. Like, it's all comes back to pedaling. And so she's like, you're the least efficient swimmer I think I've ever seen. And that's including babies.
You can learn this skill.
Yeah. We just got our scuba certs. And she was pushing me through the water when I was supposed to be towing her for like a time swimmer. She's just pushing me through the water.
Oh man.
Yeah, that's pretty
You
great.
guys.
Are you any good at swimming, Dylan?
Nope.
Oh, that's right. Yeah, because you're
No.
like training with the old resistant bands and stuff.
Yeah, I want to get better at surfing, but
Yeah. That's the only reason I'm interested in swimming is
To surf?
is
So when you fall off?
well, you have to be a decent to like excellent swimmer to be able to get enough speed to drop in on any like real waves. And that's the only
Basically,
reason. Yeah. Like other than that, I'm like, I don't need to be good
I'm
at
afraid of
swimming.
sharks.
I want to have a close encounter with a shark so bad. Like if a shark like took a
where does your fear of sharks come from? Just Jaws.
Probably
Like
movies.
everyone.
No, so I
chewing the
Dang
ice.
it!
Yeah.
Give me ice in my drink. No, I don't know. I just have this fear of deep water. And we had a pool growing up. I mean, an above ground pool, nothing crazy. But we used to play these games where we had one of those rafts that you had to see through. Like you could see through into the water. Mm-hmm. So we used to play these games and would have the vacuum cleaner that would just kind of go across the bottom of the floor. And we would pretend like that was some sort of deep sea animal or whatever. And so we'd be all on our rafts and we'd try to like not fall in. Yeah. And I just had created this fear. And one time I fell off and my foot got stuck. And we nicknamed our guy Scrubby.
Yep.
He was our guy.
That's a great name.
So, but there's like a ring around it, and my foot got stuck in it.
Yeah,
and
like the Stingray ring thing.
The ring around, and my foot got stuck, and I tried to get out, and I like cut my foot, so I had like this freak out. So I like built up this fear, and then just deep sea water, like there's some crazy animals or mammals I just get freaked out because I can't see, and then it's like touching my feet and
see.
That's not where I expected that answer to come from. You were attacked by a pool vacuum.
No, but we
and
built it. We played
legitimate.
those games, but it was just like under the water. I don't really know what's going on underneath. Where in life you can kind of see, although being attacked by bears and stuff like that.
Would you be more afraid of like a lion or?
I feel like I
love the bizarre place we've already gotten to. I'm so happy.
I feel like I am afraid of a lot of like went hiking with my sister, and
you think about it.
Yeah, I'm trying to stop.
Trying to cut back on the fear of bears.
But we were hiking in Montana or Wyoming, and Jenny, my sister, was talking about grizzly bears, and so then I was just like, oh my gosh, it's dinner time, and we're gonna get eaten by a grizzly bear, and we didn't have bear spray with us.
The good thing is, in Colorado, there's definitely no bears.
But we were in Montana. Didn't a runner get attacked?
Oh, I was totally kidding. It's supposed to be like 1 in 4 times you hike, you're being
Which
stalked.
My parents live in Evergreen, so there was literally an attack.
I just saw a thing
the
of
runner,
like a 6-year-old boy who fought a cougar off of its head. He's missing an eye now.
What?
Yeah, it bit onto his face, and he just started beating it with a stick. He's like this little kid, and they interviewed him, and he's just like the happiest kid. He's like, yeah, I was just like trying to get it off me, you know? And like so fun.
See, I want to be like Katniss. I just want to be fearless and...
You've got the braid, so you're like 3/4 of the way there.
I do. I wear a braid a lot.
Yeah.
I was Katniss a couple years ago for Halloween.
That's a great
I was
costume.
shooting a lot of people with my bow and arrow. So
Was it like a Nerf bow
Nice.
and arrow?
I actually kind of hurt.
Yeah.
It wasn't Nerf. Like, it kind of would spike people. We had fun. I had fun shooting around.
Yeah, that sounds
But
great.
I was safe.
Well, yeah, everyone else was in danger. You're the one with the bow.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
So, do you feel like you have like a lot of weird little... Because I don't think I've once in my entire life felt uncomfortable in the woods. I could probably be like, hear a bear outside the tent and be like, it's not coming in the tent. And just like go
I
back
have
to bed.
created a fear in my head. Yeah.
Wow.
And I want to be better. Like, I want to be able to go hiking, backpacking, sleep in a hammock by myself and not be scared. Because some of my friends do that. But I don't know why I want to so bad. I just want to I got to face that fear a little bit more.
Hammock camping is the best.
I've never...
You could work into that, I feel like. And
I just need to do it more.
Start
by
in, like, a
yourself is probably
backyard.
not the best way to start.
No.
But
No.
you could work into that.
So, yeah.
Yeah.
'Cause I don't think bears are as big of a thing as... I've never seen one. I'm in the mountains all the time, and I want to see one. I think it'd be cool. But there's also no grizzly bears. They're just
Yeah.
it's just black bears.
Yeah.
So
Oh no. Yeah, because I think once or twice JT and Kim have seen bears up in Rampart. Like while I was driving, someone was like, "Oh, there's a black bear," and I was like, I got out of the car, binoculars, everything. Like I wanted to see the bears so bad, and never did.
Yeah. No, I just want to get over that fear.
Yeah.
But I do like hiking and camping and stuff. But I'm always with groups.
So, do you just like know it like in the back of your head the whole time? You're like, I'm about to get eaten, but you still go do it anyways?
Yeah. But
That's
I mean,
pretty-
the
that's
chances
honestly-
are like not
yeah.
happening. But I also don't want to be like this dumb like move here tourist that's like, oh, I'm gonna go hike a 14er in sandals. It's like, I
If they're Tevas, that counts.
Okay, I mean, yeah, but knowing to be prepared.
Yeah.
But
I've
I'm like,
never
anything
once-
can happen. I don't know. I don't want to think about it. I'm trying to not.
I think about it. I think you have to think about it. I don't think you should be afraid of it, but you should
Yeah.
be prepared in case it does happen.
Yeah, I was gonna say of
Honestly-
the multiple options, I think that's better than mine of just like complete blissful ignorance. Is like I'm just never worried about danger
Yeah.
ever. Like I'm out and like.
You also
wearing,
don't go
like, a
hiking,
mini
so-
tuxedo
You know-
out in the woods, and I'd be like, oh, I'm fine.
Where I think maybe that started is like my injuries. I would just play and I was fearless in playing, and then an injury would happen and I'm like, are you kidding me? And then I'd play through and then fluke things would happen. And so then I started to build that in my head, like the fear of what if that happens again. So I think those
Oh.
fears started to build up because I was like, well, they're happening. Like, and I'm not doing anything. I wouldn't play in fear, but the more and more in the surgeries that I had to have, I was just like, I don't know when the next one's going to happen. I'm not playing like it's going to happen, but at the same time,
But
like
it
I didn't
is going
change the
to.
way I played. Like I played
Yeah.
very intense and aggressive. But it just came. So for me, I don't know if that fear of like, I don't know what's going to happen kind of translated into the fear in, well, what will happen? I don't know.
That's actually pretty legit because I've noticed now, especially when I ride dirt jumps. So we both have broken feet for those who are listening in. The same bone in the same foot. Yeah, the last 2 years I've had 2 broken bones, both from dirt jumps, which I've ridden 7 times in the last 2 years. I've ridden tons of concrete skate parks, street spots, you name it. dirt jumps and me for the last 2 years have not gotten along at all.
Just landing and then on the pedal,
just everything, you name it. Like launching over the bars and breaking my collarbone, to the foot I just overshot a jump and just somehow broke my foot. And now every time I ride dirt jumps, I have to like stop my head from like following a weird rabbit hole of like, dude, you could like case that jump, smash your teeth out, or like something insane, and I just have to like, no, puppies, anything nice.
You have to train your brain to like how like to go a certain route. Like in soccer, I had to, after a couple of them, like the visualization of replaying the injury in my head and how it happened. Because then if not, I keep going back to that same thing. Wow. So it was like retraining, going through that, whatever specific moment it was, and reversing and changing the outcome to like literally.
Wow. Did you come up with that on your own, or was that like a coach?
I mean, we'd heard a lot about visualization, but who did I see? He works with a lot of Olympians. And so I started seeing him in Houston. I am totally blanking on his name.
I love that you just casually dropped in that you were basically an Olympian.
No, I didn't say he worked on. I said he works on a bunch of Olympians.
Yeah. You.
No.
Basically.
Basically. All right. Well, let's start at the beginning then. How did you get into soccer originally? Just like any other kids? That's just what you did? Or?
I was a little tomboy, and ever since I can remember, and I do have I've had some concussions, so some of the stuff is just from what I remember or what I remember my family telling me. But I liked playing every sport, so I went and played any sport that I could, and just loved competing, loved playing against boys, and soccer took off. When I was 8 years old, I was on a team called the Pink Panthers.
Nice.
And we were amazing. We were an awesome team, but we were a really close-knit group. And so I played some basketball. In middle school, played a little volleyball, did some track. I wanted to play football. Like, I just wanted to play everything. Yeah. And soccer, because of that team, and just we did a lot of traveling, it became kind of my sport. I was good at it, obviously. And then that's where I like ran with it. And in high school is when I had to stop playing other sports competitively so that I could focus on soccer.
Yeah, because being a BMX rider, I guess it's kind of the same. Like I stopped playing other sports in high school to ride BMX more aggressively, but I remember like watching the kids who were like, no, like this is going to be my sport. Mm-hmm. And it was like, they went for it. And that's so cool. Like that was.
No, yeah. And it was 13 or 14, I started making. So with soccer, it's not like this as much now. There's a whole new system, which I'm not too familiar with. But we had state team, and then if you made your state team, so I'm from Illinois, so I made Illinois, and then you'd have your regional team, and there were 4 regions. So then I made my Region 2 team. And then there were national camps where they'd have the 4 regions together. And so I just was continuously just getting pulled and plucked into those teams.
It sounds like a ton of traveling.
Yeah. And a lot of traveling. I missed a lot. I think it was for 7 Thanksgivings in a row. I was always I was gone for soccer. Yeah. Wow. And so that was a national thing. And then when I was 14, 15, I made my first U.S. youth national team where you put the crest on.
Yeah.
And so, which was my dream. And the whole way I got there, I always was I had the belief, but then I also had the belief I'm not good enough. I need to do more work.
It's super competitive. There's literally a million kids vying for that spot.
And so when I'm in it, I knew I wanted to be there. At times I was like, I'm not good enough. I gotta find, but I always saw myself there and knew I wanted to be there. And my dream, since I can remember, was wanting to play in the Olympics and win a gold medal and play in the World Cup and win a World Cup. And so that, I'd say when I was 14, 15, and when I was young, it's what do you want to be when you grow up? Mine was professional athlete. Yeah. So I actually got to do what I said
which is awesome.
Wanted to do. Yeah. So, but that's when it kind of took off in the national team, and I must have traveled to 16 different countries, all from soccer. I would have never.
At 14.
Well, I mean, through the rest of my career.
So did you miss high school pretty much, or?
Yeah, I I like to paint. So I had kept some calendars with paintings, and I opened up the calendar, and it was from, I think it was from 2003, and it was like every 2 weeks I was gone. I think one time I made like 10 days of school in a month, or like 7 days of school in a month, and I was in Germany and Austria and Holland, and I was with the U19 national team. I was with the regional. It was just like I kind of forgot because I was so set on the next thing, and I loved and enjoyed it. But I did miss a lot of school and learned how to get my schoolwork done. And school was very important to me. Like I wanted to make sure I got into a good college and like continued on with my education. Because it's always like, well, you don't know if you're going to actually play, you know?
Yeah. It's a big gamble to just bet everything on the one. Yeah. Well, and I'm blown away. Like, how cool is it that you got to do that? Like, your parents were like sending you all over, because I definitely know kids. Like, I got accepted on the state team for lacrosse, and then they were like, yeah, you're going to travel essentially like every other weekend to a different state, and it's like this much to join the team, and then you have to pay your own way, like to each event. And my dad was like, no.
Yeah.
Like, you're hanging out here just because like I'm not going to spend like $3,000.
It's a lot. It's an investment, and
a quarter so that you can go play lacrosse. Like,
I think like my sister also played soccer and club and played D1 college, and my brother played some sports, he's labeled genius in my phone. Like,
that's great.
But like we played a ton of sports, and my parents they saw the passion. And for me, I was one of those kids that was in the backyard by myself. I slept sometimes when I was younger with literally a soccer ball at my foot, and was one of those players. And my dreams and my goals, like when I was 14 and I had come from a camp, and I got a poster of the U.S. women's national team with their gold medals on, and I had that dream, and we had bunk beds, so I had it above, and then ripped off a cardboard box and said national team, just do it. And I had the little glow in the dark stars, so that even when the lights went out, like that was burning in my eyes. So like I wanted it. And I know there's a lot of players that do, but how many will actually go through and sacrifice? So for my parents for all of us kids, like I'm so grateful for them, because some people don't have that opportunity. Like they just financially can't. And then at a certain point, everything was being paid for. Yeah. So once you hit over that certain point,
there's a tipping point for sure. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Well, and like you said, like every kid grows up, or most kids grow up like, oh, I want to be a pro athlete or something like that. And very quickly, when they learn how much effort it takes,
it's
they're like,
a lot.
Yeah, I'm good. Like I'll be whatever.
I mean, even us for bike riding a little bit, like...
Yeah, 100%. Like, as soon as I found out what it really took to become a pro athlete in BMX, I was like, oh, no. A, like, that sounds very expensive, but B, also, like...
I mean, you miss a lot of times with friends. You miss a lot of...
Yeah, they take it just as serious as, like, someone in the NFL or in, any Olympic team, like, because now it's an Olympic sport. And, yeah, they, like... take it just as serious, because the people that I was all hanging out with that I was learning BMX from were all from like the era of BMX where like no one took it serious. It was like I knew like the guy who I ride for got his first sponsorship from showing up to a contest, crashing aggressively 3 times in a row on all of his runs, and someone was like, that was the most burly thing I've ever seen. You ride for us now, and just gave him a frame. Versus now it's like, that was really breathtaking, but also, are you a professional when it's the camera's on you, and are you like, there's so much more to it. Yeah. Where it's really truly like a professional sport.
Yeah. Well, you pour in everything, like, and I even look at the kids like, man, when I look at like the gymnasts and the age at what they are really, because for soccer, I mean, it's more so you're a little bit older. Gymnasts, I look at them like they're so young.
Yeah, they're like out of high school.
Oh my gosh, like they are. So I have so much respect, but you do pour in. I mean, that's a lot of my identity was placed in soccer, and that's something that it's been a challenge after soccer. It's like you're retiring, or people who have been at a company for 20, 30, 40 years, and they retire and they're like, I don't know what to do with myself. Well, athletes are doing that at a much younger age if they're playing professionally at the Olympics. Yeah. So.
Well, and it's the same amount of time, right? Like, you've been pouring your heart in this for 2 decades, and then it's like, not only am I young enough that anything is possible in front of me, but also I missed all of high school and I missed all of college because I was chasing this dream.
And then what if you don't actually reach it?
And it's like, I got there for the most part, but now it's like I also have to come up with what I'm going to do from here forward. And you know something that you're so passionate about that anything else just doesn't feel right.
That was a huge struggle for me.
But did you get to live your dream? You made it to the national team. What happened from there?
So yeah, so I got to play professionally for 7 years. And my dream was always that. So right out of college, it was just amazing timing that the professional league was starting up in the U.S. So it was back in 2000, 2001, 2002. Then it folded. And then the year I was graduating, 2009, it started back up. And so I had gone to a national camp, like a mega camp in 2007. So I'd been up in that. For me, it is crazy looking back because 2009, rookie in the pros, starting and playing every minute. Like the first game. This is a really cool story.
Yeah.
So
it won't bite. The mic won't bite. It looked like it really surprised you there.
Yeah.
So coming out of college, I played center, mid, and forward. So I played Notre Dame. We did very well. We went to 3 Final Fours, 2 national championship games. Like we were in it, playing with the national team, U19, U20, U23. So was in the track, and I wanted to prepare myself for. Like I didn't want to just I'm gonna get here and then I'm gonna be scared. Like I wanted to prove I'm meant to be here.
Yeah, you earned it. Yeah.
So my rookie season in the pros, I was training at center mid and a little bit of forward, but we were stacked. Like we had the national team players, Shannon Box, Allie Wagner, like national team players that were playing for our women's team, and Marta as forward, if anyone knows soccer, the Brazilian, she was 5-time FIFA Player of the Year. So we're coming into this, and really the attacking bunch was taken up, like the positions. Yeah. But I was training. I'm like, I want to play. Like I am not backing down.
Put me on the field. I'll be any position.
Yeah. Well, 4 days before opening game, coach comes to me and he's like, "Hey, Britt, how do you feel about center back?" And in my head, I'm like, center back? How do I feel about center back? I don't want to play center back. Like I've never played. Yeah. And I was like, well, I want to play. So yeah. And so 4 days before opening game, we start training me and I'm like, I am aggressive. So I'm stepping forward and our back line's like, Box, stay.
Yeah.
But the first game, our opponent was Washington Freedom, and Abby Wambach was the forward that I was marking, and then Lisa Devanna. So they are just like world class. If anyone knows soccer, like the best of the best of the best. And so it was like, okay, welcome to the pros. And just from instinct and just from drive and just like being confident in my abilities, probably making a lot of mistakes, but in that game got called to the national team.
That's awesome.
And so
first game.
Yeah, first game. And so that whole entire year I was training with the national team, going overseas with them, and so all of that. And so I actually was playing that year with an injury. So March I hurt the left foot, May I hurt the right foot. One was with the national team, one was that, but I played the entire season all the way through October, because I just wanted it so bad. And so I think in it I wasn't even thinking like, oh my gosh, I'm on the national team. And I think it's weird because looking back, and I've randomly seen Facebook posts seeing like, Britt, congrats on the call up. That was my dream, like to be on that team, but it wasn't good enough to just get into camps. I wanted to be on the team. So even in that, I was such a blessing. I didn't take it for granted. Like I was pushing hard, but I was also battling through a lot of foot pain for the entire season. And it turned out that when I was with the national team in Germany, I just couldn't. There was a practice right before for the game, and I got into a tackle. And I was like, this is just so bad. I went home and I ended up getting double foot surgery in November and in January. And so that was just like, I was in there and I trained the whole year. But to me, I was just like, this isn't good enough. Mm-hmm. And I want it to be more. So like, even though, and when I look back on my career, I never, I never won, or was part of a team that won the Olympics and won the World Cup. And so I was always like, if I just would have won that, if I just would have been on that team. And it was almost like I discounted everything else in my career because I was like, no, but I didn't reach my goal.
Yeah, I didn't make it to literally the exact spot I wanted.
And so and when people, through the years, it's been a healing process because I was bitter and angry and jealous because I couldn't do the right thing and my body failed me and I had 11 surgeries and I'm like, what am I doing wrong? I want this so bad. And when I look back and people are like, are you kidding me? Like, you played my dream. You played professional soccer for 7 years.
You made it to the
national team.
Yeah.
And I'm like, yeah, but I didn't make my goal. Like, it was just like that competitive, intense spirit. But now that, like, looking back and the more that I realize, I'm like, yeah, I did.
Yeah.
But it's
like as a little bit of distance has been made. I wonder if, because I feel like you were talking about how you were working with some of the Broncos players and you just recently hurt your foot and they're like, what are you doing, crazy lady? Like, go get surgery right now. Mm-hmm. You're insane. Go get fixed so you can be back to 100%. I wonder, like, it's so easy when you're like you're holding on to it with such white knuckle intensity that you forget, like you were like, I want to make sure I earn this and everyone knows I deserve a spot here. There's a flip side of that of like, you got called here because you already deserved it. Like, what if you just like accepted it? Like, oh, that's right. I wouldn't be here if I hadn't earned it. I wouldn't, right. And like healed up right when the injuries happened. Yeah, I feel like that's something that most athletes don't recognize. Like, especially when I was a kid, I broke my ankle and I was riding like full strength 2 weeks later just because like, I'm invincible. I'll live forever. I'm in Woodward camp. This is the greatest place I'll ever get to be. I'm with all these wonderful kids who are looking at me like I'm a superhero because I can ride slightly better than them. Like at the time, I was like at the best I could ride, and I was like, yeah, I've got to just shred right now. And if I had just let it heal, like, who knows?
That's what one of the things, like, I go out and, like, mentor kids and talk to soccer teams and and just get into more, the more that I want to just speak to people is patience is a word that I keep hearing. And I'm like, no, I want to push through it. I'm strong. My strength was my strength. Yeah. And it just became, because I'm like, if I don't do it now, what if I never get a chance again? I have to fight through it. I played through a lot for an entire year, snapped ligament and broken bone that I played 6-7 months on.
And trained.
And that's what I mean. Every single day. I mean, I was complaining every single day, like, how do I tape this? And every single day to wrap my feet. Like, if you would have seen my feet just to compete, I'm like, wow, I did that at a very high level.
Pounds of athlete
tape. Like, and the national team coach, Pia, was like, patience. And I was 22 years old. And looking back, and this is where I really want to like just speak wisdom into people, like be patient, be kind to your body. Now I'm like, I'm 32 and I feel like I'm hurting. And so it's just finding this, and we're only going to get older. And so I really am big on taking care of my body, but
as a kid, you don't want to hear that.
You think you're invincible.
Well, especially because what got you to nationals was being so ferociously intense that, like, I don't think people recognize once you make it there, just like how there's a tipping point, like there is a tipping point where, like, just like in the NFL, like there's been rookies who, like, in, like, game one of their rookie year, they'll get super injured and then they come back next year and everything's fine, and they've spent the time just healing and training, and then they crush it year two. Versus, like, all you know is the ferocity that got you there.
And that national team.
So you're like, if I let go of this is the only thing I know that works.
Yeah.
I can't trust
it. It served me to get me to where I was. And when I looked at, like, the national team to crack, there was a time where that team didn't change much at all. And so I was like,
I'll lose my spot.
Yeah. And you know what's really funny? Playing different positions, they called me in for center back And I'd never played it before. And so I was like, wow. And so I trained that whole year. But it was funny because, like, when I got called into another camp, and I was like, I can't commit. It was like a November camp or a December camp. And I said, I can't. Like, I've got to take care of my feet. And I finally did. Yeah. And guess the person that, like, replaced me on the roster in that time?
I wouldn't know because I don't know.
Alex Morgan. And it was like, she's going to be there regardless. Like, that player, she's, you know, and it was just crazy. Like, the people, I think, there's so many girls or athletes in any team, like, that are right there, that it could go one way or the other, and then one person takes it and run with it. And one of those things is like, what did I do wrong? What did I? And so I'm like, if I just would have done this or this and this.
Had I gone there and just punished my feet even more?
Yeah, but like to me, like when I look back, and I've been talking about like what success means to us and what, I was so like focused on what I wanted, and instead of seeing the big picture, and like taking the time, I was like, I need it now. Where, gosh, if I would have like truly rested and found how to correctly move like in a functional body,
of genuinely just R&R,
and where I could have been, but I can't look back, and like now I want to help share my experiences, but also like I go 100%, like that's my nature, and I know I can be more smart about it, but I didn't know any other way.
Yeah, exactly.
I didn't know any other way. So
no, honestly, I think that's what's so wonderful about it is anyone can be sharing the message of like just all out. All you need to do is eat, sleep, drink, poop your goals all day, every day. It's on your mind. Like you tape your sticky notes to your steering wheel so you're always staring at what you are chasing down. And that ferocity leads to like once you get there, you can't even enjoy it because your whole way of getting there was such insane intensity that like actually enjoying it feels weird.
Well, and you do, like, it's like, well, again, I was on the national team, and it was like, I didn't even realize it.
Yeah.
Like, I did, but at the same time, I'm like, well, this is the next thing. I need the next thing. And I was chasing something. Had really put my identity in that. And to grow out of that the last couple of years and really realizing, like, my true worth and my identity has been a process, but a beautiful one.
Yeah, that's the part that I'm interested in.
Yeah, and that's really important. Do they have like programs in place, or are you just on your own? Like, are there people you can talk to about this?
So for me, I've really struggled. Yeah. Like I held on. I'm like, I feel like everyone else who
doing all the same stuff
retires and they move on, like now they're doing jobs and they're successful and they're all this. And I kept looking at what other people were doing, and I'm like, how do I move on? I held on for so long, and there's still a part of me that looks back, but I've definitely matured and grown, and time helps, and being grateful for the time that I had. But I've spoken to several athletes. I've listened to several podcasts of these athletes who the struggle beyond the sport and beyond the fame, in a sense. And for me, I was just craving, like, that's why I just love what your guys' podcast, Joy.
Yeah.
Because I think I was chasing happiness, like the next thing, that'll make me happy. That'll get my goal. And I was chasing these goals and dreams. And I felt like if I just would have made that Olympic team, if I just would have been on that, if I just would have won, if I just would have it was never going to end. I was chasing this happess.
Yeah, it's like, if I only had 2 gold medals instead of 1.
And I was continuing, like, then I'll reach my goal. And I talked, and like I said, listened to other podcasts of these athletes that have won World Series, who have been MLB All-Stars, who have won Super Bowls. And the next day they're drinking, depressed, because if that was that's it, we're chasing happiness and like forgetting to see like where the true joy comes out of. And that's where I think the joy is in the struggle, and the beauty of it's in that. And like through the struggle and seeing that, being able to then help others through that, because the chances are of like everyone reaching that goal and dream, most people won't. I don't discourage people from having dreams and goals and pushing towards them at all.
Yeah.
But it may not look like how you have it in your head.
100%. Yeah, like I have two questions, or I guess a question and just like Tony Robbins talks about how like all of the astronauts that were going to the moon were coming back and they were just inconsolably blue. And no one was figuring it. And they were like,
the moon.
Right, exactly.
Yeah.
They were like, there's nothing I will ever do that will ever even come within literally within millions of miles of where I've just been.
I don't think it's quite that far, but I'm not an astrophysicist.
How do I possibly find euphoria or joy or like that same level of passion?
Well, it's the same thing as money.
The goal is coming back and finding joy in someone's smile, or like, oh, you got to help someone, or you paid for the coffee behind you, or whatever it is. Like, it's recognizing that stuff is more joy, the other is more accomplishment and pride, and none of that's a bad thing. In fact, I encourage it. But yeah, that's not where you find your worth. That's not where you find joy. And the second question is, what are some of those podcasts, in case someone listening is like going through the same thing? Because it clearly seemed to help you. And like,
yeah, well, I listened to a lot of Ed Milet's stories, and just like stories of overcoming adversity. And there's it's called Stage 4 to On Stage, and it's a story. I dated this guy for a while, and his story is incredible, and he brings on people who have overcome like great odds, and where they take their life from like the lowest of low.
Stage 4 being like stage 4 critical
cancer. Yeah. So, but Ed Milet, I listened to that. I forget what episode. It was the baseball player. But yeah, where they struggled because they were like, I reached the pinnacle. I reached the pinnacle of my career, and then I found myself drinking and my life, like contemplating taking my life.
Yeah.
And it's like, so there's a lot within there. Where was the other, people have sent me stuff, but for myself, like I've talked to several athletes just in person, and on the phone, other professional athletes, because I'm like, I'm struggling so much. And he goes, and to be able to speak to some of these like ex-Broncos, and he's like, man, you sound like I'm talking to myself right now. Like I'm listening to myself. He goes, I can relate to you so much. And when I hear that, for me, like that is my passion, is knowing how much I struggled and how much I put my identity in my sport. That's something that maybe I just haven't found it yet, and I'm sure there's other podcasts that I just haven't found. But I want to talk to the people. I want to talk to the athletes, and I have my own mini podcast. It's like 5-minute little episodes.
That's
and
awesome.
It's called Surrendered Strength. And so for me, it's kind of like the goals and dreams that I've had and got to the highest level, or about the highest level that I could, and then where's life beyond that? How do I dream again? How do I find a new goal and a new passion? And that's where this idea of, man, it's so interesting, because like I remember playing soccer, and the pro league folded one year in 2012, and I ended up going over. I played a little bit of semi-pro here. I was like, this is not the level. I want it to be more. So then I went over.
Yeah, I don't want to feel like you're slipping back.
Yeah, so then I ended up going over to Sweden and playing. And I go out there. I leave like my family, my boyfriend at the time, my just a lot of things I left to go overseas. And within 3 weeks, because of another injury, I think I was compensating, and the way I ran, had another injury, blew out my ankle so bad that I eventually had to get surgery. But I was like, I come all the way overseas. I give up everything else to chase this dream of my passion of soccer. And now that's taken away. And it really started, like, that's where my heart really started to to just be like, what is going on? All the things I'm passionate about, playing sports, all this stuff, if everything's taken away, like what makes us happy? Like imagine if you, like, hope it like never does for people, but like imagine everything that you loved was just, you couldn't do it anymore.
Yeah, whatever
like,
that
where
thing
would
is,
you find your happiness? Because we find happiness in the moment, and it's like, I can't, like, even just for my foot, like, I can't play sports this entire summer. It was since April. What is it now? September. Couldn't play sports, couldn't hike mountains, couldn't do all the physical things I wanted to do. And I'm like, that's where I find a lot of happiness and where I find joy, in a sense. And when that's all taken, not like taken from you, but you're not able to do it.
Yes, it's not an option.
Where do you find like that peace? And so for me, like that's been a journey that I want to combine the identity of being at the highest level of an athlete, putting my identity into that. And then also like, that was my passion, my dream. Now I don't have what I saw myself as. Where do I go now? Like, how do I don't even know how to dream. I don't even know what I want because the thing I wanted, I can't have. And I was so focused on that. So I want to help athletes. And that's why I go out and I'll speak to like any age group of athlete, but for like preparing them for not like train hard and put everything into it. Even if your very best will not make a professional team, give your best anyways, because you'll fall into another passion. And that's like your joy and your happiness is not like, if we're chasing something it's a moment, like those times will pass away. But true joy, I think, is where we go through the struggle and we like, it's not just like, oh, it feels good, so that's why I'm happy. Like you find the beauty in it. You find something deeper. Yeah. So I want to help athletes do
That's
that,
really
and people
cool.
do that. So
well, yeah, I think it's important, and I guess you're wanting to be what I asked you if it existed.
Yes.
So maybe it doesn't exist until you, which
and maybe there is,
cool.
and I just haven't really like dug deep enough. But for me,
you're the only one, Britt.
I'm doing
it. All comes down
but
to
I
you.
do like, because the more and more I crave like healing, and I question, and like through like depression and questioning and anger and bitterness and holding on, and I've listened to a lot of things that have helped me, like, okay, gratitude, and do these small.
I'm not the only one,
right?
Yeah.
But to be at that high level, like my parents, my family, they've never been to that level, and I never think I'm above anyone, but it's like they haven't experienced that kind of thing.
I think most people don't know what it's like to be so in love with something as like a professional athlete. Like, even as someone who never made it as like a true professional, like I've been paid for BMX, but it's never been something like, I do remember a time in my life where like I was as addicted to being a BMX rider as like a heroin addict would be addicted to heroin. Like it really is so all consuming, that passion. And I don't think a lot of people know like that intense passion.
To love it
especially,
that much.
Especially that young, where like that's when you're forming your identity and all that.
Yeah.
And then it makes it really hard afterwards to be like I'm going through that to some degree of like, I feel like I'm very good or have at many things and have many, many options in front of me. I could do literally anything in my life, and nothing feels as intense as how much I love BMX, especially loved it when I first fell in love with it. And so it makes it hard to like trust that same gut instinct that got you into the thing you loved the first time.
Well, it's like we desire something so bad, and it's like a passion, and we chase after it. In some sense, I feel like I made soccer an idol.
Oh, for sure.
I wanted it so bad, to the point when it's gone, I'm still like, I know I can't change the past, and I'm like, I'm holding on to it. But in that, like, I think for a while I was afraid to go all in something, because I'm like, what if I go all in again, spend that much time in tears and sweat and blood and energy, and I don't reach it again. And so it was like, I don't even know what my new desire would be, because you've seen the work that you've put through to not reach,
to get to 95%.
Yeah.
And then then the download fails or whatever.
Yeah. And so that's where I want to change and like change the mindset and work with athletes and people that like your identity is not in that. Because when you place it so much in that, like it's like a happiness, it's like fleeting, it's like you're only going to get it. And that's where like addiction comes from. You want it feels good, you want more of it. So, and like with
if
soccer,
it's conditional, it's happiness. If it's not, it's joy.
Yeah. And so instead of like, yeah.
Well, it's got to be such a tough balance though, because if you don't have that addiction and your identity made of it, you're probably not going pro, honestly.
Yeah.
That's
like,
true.
How are you gonna get good enough if you're not out in the backyard kicking balls by yourself?
See, I don't think the addiction is the problem. I think it's the.
I mean, that's what I'm saying. It's a fine line of finding that balance.
You have to like to get to the level. You have to put in that work.
X amount, yeah.
And you have to like your mindset and focus. For me, it's more like the identity issue.
Yeah.
Like
exactly.
not putting like, oh my gosh, we lost, I'm a failure, people hate me. I mean, it went to the extreme, but like knowing like I've got to put everything into this, but if I lose, if I fail, it does not say that I am bad. So it's like knowing you've got to pour in everything, but recognizing like your worth and your
worth comes from the fact that you put everything in.
Like
not
that's
from
where
the
your
result.
character is built. Like that's where you're built and into the human you are. But making it an idol is what I think where I did.
Well, it's so funny because you keep talking about how you're like, I didn't quite make it, and like I'm trying to put in my head every time I keep hearing that, I'm just picturing like in business terms, like. You wanted to be the next Steve Jobs, and instead you are Tesla. Like, you still are in the top 98% of all companies that have ever made it. Like, you literally maxed out the bar at the first and only thing you've given 100% effort at. I would look at that as, like, unbelievable confidence that, like, as soon as you decide to pull the trigger on something else... max out. Well,
it's the old quote: "Shoot for the moon. At least you'll hit the. If you miss, at least you'll hit the stars," or something like that. So you at least
you clipped it. I don't know if you landed, but you at least took it.
Slung around it.
Yeah, exactly.
And this whole idea of like, what does success mean to you? Has really been like, okay, you can all these people with businesses and all these that became super successful and all of this, and to me I'm like really wrestling with that because a lot of it I comes to like I don't want to gain the whole world and lose my soul. Like I it's like we're chasing after this, but for what are my motives behind it? And when you look at like success, what like if you were to think, well, what does success mean to me? Like it's like, oh, is it if I would have made the national team and had the gold medal and yay, like then what? And
you'd be in the same place,
right? Then you would be. It would never be enough. Yeah, and so like finding that like joy and like I'm doing this, and success is, for me, it's like chasing and pursuing that deep passion in your heart, not because of what the world says or what people expect, but like chasing after something and then doing what you say you're gonna do, and even if you fail, like persevering through that. And that's what builds you. And like that brings joy. And like joy can even come down to the smallest little thing. Like I go to the lake and I love watching the birds fly, and I like simple little pleasures versus like needing the biggest hit in the biggest like.
Yeah, you need to do the bicycle kick from midfield into the top corner of the goal,
like
at the buzzer.
If we're constantly seeking for that to bring us the pleasure and like our worth, then we lose track of like the simplest joys of life, which I think the simplest joys of life, like that's where true joy and like spending time with family and being just in the moment and realizing like right now, like we are enough and we are loved and we are, I don't know, like bringing it down to like the smallest of scale. Like if I never played soccer, if I never did this, or I never, whatever, like I would be enough. And like that's where joy is just like.
I think of it as like the Office Space theory. Like I would rather take a percentage of a bajillion pennies than have to keep making $1 million gambles. Like, I feel like I'm a very joyful person because I'll literally any possible excuse I can to be like in awe and in wonder and just like how magical life is. Like, we're dog sitting my mother-in-law's dog right now, and at least 3 or 4 times a day I spend like a couple minutes just like, how great is this dog? He loves me so much. This is incredible. And like I really let it sink in. Or like the other day I was with my wife and I was like, can you believe my foot's broken right now? And she's like, what? And I was like, my foot's broken. I can't even tell. This is unbelievable. Here I am just like broken foot on a dinner date with my wife. This is great. I literally don't even know that my foot is broken. I have to keep reminding myself. Like, how crazy is it that my body, for whatever reason, is totally okay with me having a broken foot? Doesn't hurt. It's not uncomfortable. Like, bringing like so much joy. I'm like, that's incredible. Like, I'm gonna find joy in that instead of like the misery in the fact that I did break my foot. Like, I've found more joy in like all of the little things in my life compounded over time than even some of the, like, I've done some really cool stuff, and you've done, like, all three of us have done some really cool things, some arguably like 1,000,000 points in the joy points or whatever you want to call it. But I would much rather get as many 1-point conversions as possible. Yeah, like, because those opportunities are every moment.
Well, and I went through some dark times in anger and frustration to where it affected my relationships, because when your body's in physical pain and like you can't do what you love, and then like every single day is like, I'm in pain, like I can't even walking up the stairs, it tears you down. And it's like, I'm a very joyful, bubbly person. Like, first time we met, I was like, just like bouncing off walls. Yeah, like, I'm just, having a great time. That's how, and like, I love doing that. And just, that's who I am into the core is a joyful person. But when you have these things that beat you down and time again, I got to the point where I was like, why? Angry, frustrated. And that joy started to, like, every little thing, it was like I became a pessimist. I was like, and very negative, because I was like, like my family's trying to cheer me up or whatever. And instead of being like, oh yeah, I chose, because it's a choice on how we react. It's like misery accompanies misery. I like chose to sit in that, and I was angry, and I wanted, as if that was serving me in any way. But I continued, and I fell into this like depression. And that was really hard to get out of, because there were times I just wanted to I was like, I just want to be happy. I just want to be happy. And I would do things that made me happy, but then I'd come home and I was still like hurting and empty. And so there was a process and it took time. And it took there were sometimes like even things that made me laugh would make me angry. And I'm like, what the heck? Because
I'm angry. I'm laughing right now.
Yeah,
I'm
I was
so
just like, I didn't want to be like.
I said I was miserable today.
And I there was a time that I just was like stuck in that. And I think one of the biggest things for me was, my word for the year is grace. Wow. Is just like allowing myself to like show myself some grace, to just receive love, to just be kinder to my body. Because I'm like, I treated my body, I was like, come on, like, this is my vessel,
you were
and I'm gonna
dragging it along.
Yeah, and I was like, do what I say you're gonna do.
Yeah.
And it was letting go and resorting to like the workouts I wanted to do. I couldn't do what I wanted, and I was angry and I was frustrated. I'd cry in workouts because I was like, I hate this. This makes me so angry. Like, something I loved, now I hate. I don't even want to come here.
I just want to run.
There were a lot of triggers, and so it was like being okay, and like couldn't play sports, couldn't do this, couldn't hike, couldn't whatever. It was like finding joy in the little moments, and I really had to like slow down and be okay and not be so stubborn.
Yeah.
And like with this foot, it's been 5 months or whatever. And I'm like, wow, 5 months just passed. And there's been a huge healing in it. But I had to like allow myself to tap into that, like finding joy, counting it all joy.
Yeah.
So what made you start that process? Like, what was there one catalyst that went from anger to at least like finding joy in one little thing?
Or even recognizing that there was a problem.
No, I recognized it. And I think I have known it. I think there's I think I built up a lot of shame in myself because I'm like, people struggle worse than me. I have a pretty dang good life. And I had a pity party, and I was angry because I was hurting, and I couldn't do the things I wanted to do. I was being
exactly what I
had a very
all the time.
selfish. I held on to the past, and so it's been like honestly years of healing. But through the past, even just 1 year, just realizing my worth, going to counseling for the first time in my life.
Shout out to counseling.
Yeah, and I'm like, and it was just like, just little moments. I also had a lot of head trauma. Like I had a brain map and did neurofeedback. There's a lot of trauma in my head and like the emotions and the stress and the anxiety. And I have anxiety attacks. So there were a lot of little things. And I'm a massage therapist, so working with other, like the healing in my body, it wasn't, I knew where I was at. And I knew that it was a choice to be. It was a choice to just choose gratitude, choose happiness. And I was like, I know it's a choice, and I keep choosing wrong. So I built a lot of shame up in myself. Like, I'm very aware what I'm doing, and I'm still choosing wrong. I know it's a choice. And it was a deep sadness. And so with the counseling, with the just being kind to myself, trying to change little habits, changing the words, the verbiage that I would tell myself, because I was very harsh on myself, and I would pour out onto other people, and like they would for whatever it was, and they'd just be so grateful and like how much I helped them, and I'd go home and just cry because I was like, why can't I do this for myself? So I started to put a lot more, started to just show myself some grace and receive grace and like know like I'm loved, and I don't have to be the best at everything, although my competitive spirit wants to. Like, it's
I don't have to, I get to.
So it was one of those things that like I knew it for a while, but I didn't know how to get it. And so putting good, positive thoughts in my head, that's why I started listening to a ton of podcasts. There's another podcast, Father Mike Schmitz is I don't know, he's just funny. He does CrossFit and he's just awesome. And like, there's a lot of healing in that podcast. My faith is huge. Yeah. So pouring into that community, in prayer. Sometimes I wouldn't even want to go to prayer because I was so angry or embarrassed, or knowing like, I just felt a lot of shame. So like the things I say that I go and like tell other people are regardless of where you're at now, where you were before, whether you were like the top of the top before and now you're down here, or whether you just thought you were the lowest thing in the world and you're trying to climb out of it. Like, no shame, no judgment, no comparison. Like comparing yourself to others, where they are, where you think you should be, where you were. No shame, no judgment, no comparison. And I had to continue to tell myself that. And when I would shame myself or shame my body or shame myself, like for not doing the things I said I was going to do. And so with podcasts, with a lot of better self-talk, with humbling myself and doing like the most boring, lame workouts that I thought, but starting to move better. And it was just one day at a time. And then I'd have days that I'd fall, but like, it was a process of healing that I put off for so long because I was holding on to wishing the past was different.
Yeah. Well, it's so funny that like as soon as you finally started actually healing your body, everything else came in, right? Like,
I think it's healing.
I don't think that's a coincidence.
Yeah, like I think like healing my soul, and it's interesting because like I'm on crutches. I just recently got off of them, and I'm like, man, I'm like in life, I'm using a lot of things as crutches. I'm allowing this to hold myself back, and there's fear going forward that I'm not good enough, that because I didn't make because I wasn't on the World Cup team, who wants to listen to me? Because I wasn't, there were so many fears attached. And if you really look at like what you're truly passionate about and the things that scare you the most, it's probably where you're like meant to go into, but it's our pride and our ego. That was a big thing I had to, and I'm continuing to die to my pride and my ego, because I was embarrassed of my career. People were like, why are you embarrassed? And for me, I was like, the end of my career, I was like, I was not the player I was. Like, I gained weight. I was so embarrassed. And that was just pride and ego. Yeah. And so, like, healing through that, and then just pouring into other people, but in a place of, like, starting to believe that about myself, too, that I deserved to be. And not, I don't like the word, like, I deserve to be whatever, but, like, I need to put myself, the things that I'm saying, if I'm telling other people and like, God loves you, and if I'm saying like all this stuff, why do I think I escape that love?
Yeah, exactly.
Like that's prideful to think I don't deserve that love.
If you're willing to tell someone else with full conviction this about their life,
so why don't I think I deserve it? Yeah.
Saying it, like, if I'm willing to 100% commit to it when I tell them that, I have to 100% commit to it when I'm telling myself that. Yeah,
that's like receiving the graces.
Yeah. You keep saying grace, and I love to hear what different words mean. Because to me, grace probably means something different, and to Dylan, it probably means something different. What, like, if you were to, like, real quickly, in, like, a sentence, sum up grace, what does that look like? What does that actually mean to you?
Yeah, just grace, just, like, love and mercy. And, like, I think holding on to a lot of shame, and I think I'm not, like, what I'm doing is wrong, and the grace is just like, grace is poured upon you, like the blessings and the love, and yeah, I didn't think I was worthy, and so that idea and grace was popped on my heart, and just like kindness, softness, gentleness, love, compassion, blessings. Those are a lot of the words. That's not a sentence, but
no, that didn't need a sentence.
Yeah.
No, I really believe in. I love that you were like, this is my word for the year. Mm-hmm. I remember, like, for me it was joy. Like, one day I was just like, that's my thing. I'm just gonna be that now. And I literally, like, wrote it on my mirror. I etched it into my mirror.
I have a lot of things on my mirror.
And I literally, like, made it, like, all day, every day. I would just tell myself, like, I am love. I'm love, joy, and endless passion. It started as enthusiasm, but I'm just passionate, like, about. Yeah. We want to talk about anything. I'm gonna try and find a way to be a 10 out of 10 on excitement and enthusiasm and passion for it. And for like a whole year. And I noticed I was a very different version of myself beginning and end of that year.
You're intentional with it.
Yeah, like, you just all of a sudden, like, that's where the idea of, like, I'm going to take as many little tiny points, joy points, as I can. Because if I'm waiting around for that perfect, just amazing, I'm going to get 1,000,000 points of joy for this awesome thing, like, go for it. Why wouldn't you want to get that? But I would be so focused on, like, that I wouldn't be like, oh, wow, this dog just came up and is so happy to see me. Like, boom, that's a couple points. Like, and it adds up. And that's where all of a sudden people started noticing, like, wow, man, how are you always so joyful and pumped? And, like, I just feel so loved every time. Like, I started getting compliments on my hugs. People were like, you give the best hugs.
People.
Yeah, they're like, you give the best hugs. And I was like, yes, like, this, it actually made a difference. Mm-hmm. So I think that's going to be really cool. Like,
have you heard
like it already has made a big difference.
Oh, yeah. Have you heard of, like, the one word, John Gordon? If you follow him at all.
No.
But he wrote a book with, blanking, but they wrote a book, like, the one word, and really I actually didn't read the book, but I got the premise of finding.
Yeah, the title's enough.
Yeah. Read the title and was like,
I do that all the time. I'm like, this is going to be incredible. And then I get like one chapter and I'm like, I get this.
but like, and it helps you understand it.
I mean, if it helped you picked grace and.
But like they talk about having your word for the year and just being more intentional on that. And then like your life word, like what you, and I think though, like we can make an idol out of everything if we get too like focused on it. And so for me it's just like, I want to stop trying to worry about what people think about what I'm doing. And I think maybe that's why I embrace the weird so much more, because I'm like, I don't care. Yeah. I mean, I do at a point, but like...
Silly fun boy, or in your case, gal.
Yeah.
Gals can be silly
just, like,
and fun.
Very silly and fun. And very, I don't know, it's like super joyful, and then I get pretty dark.
Well, you're a very intense, passionate
person.
They don't know this from listening, but we have been this into the conversation since second 3 of you getting through the door. like this is because I'm the same way. Like if I meet someone, like we were joking around earlier, like you're gonna get both barrels immediately, and I think it's awesome because I feel like most people have to kind of warm up into it. You're like, no, let's get to the meat and potatoes.
There's sometimes I feel like the way I am. And it's just, I don't know. I'm in a group of people and I know how to maybe step back a little bit, but for the most part, I can't help it. I like having fun and laughing. And then sometimes I'm like, oh man, I think I'm too much for people sometimes. And it's just, but like,
but those aren't people that you're meant to be around anyway.
Like,
so.
I don't know. Like, I don't want anyone to steal my joy. I want to have fun. But I like getting deep. I think you can find so much joy too in just like the deep conversations with people, and like that's where you build those relationships. It's kind of like I think about love. Love is not a feeling. Like love is an action. Because you don't love someone when you're...
Let's talk about this for a whole nother podcast. We'll cut the tape and then we're going to start all over again and talk for 3 hours on that exact sentence.
Yeah, like... To me, that's kind of what joy is. But like
it's
love,
an action, yes.
It's an action because our family members can really piss us off and we're mad at them right now. And it's a feeling. We're mad. We're not always going to be happy, but we love them. It is an action. It's like you have a
love
deep
is only something you can give.
And so with joy, I feel like you can be sad and still be joyful because it's like that deeper rooted. It's not just like, oh, I'm happy now. But it's like you can be sad and still find joy and the beauty through the struggle.
Yes. God, yes. That is wonderful to hear because that is such truth. Like you brought it up earlier how like happiness comes and goes. Like people put way too much stock in happiness as an emotion. Like people are like, oh, I'm always trying to be happy. It's like that's no better than always trying to be sad. Like it's fleeting. It's not really anything. Like you know that you're doing joy correctly when you're like, oh God, I have to be joyful. Like it takes effort and it's conscious and it's a thought.
It is easier said than done though.
Yeah.
That's a thing you have to work at.
I think a big part of what you were talking about of how like joy is also attained. Like you can be in a joyful place while going through sadness. You can be in a joyful place while dealing with struggle, and often you can find it even in the struggle. In
the trial, like consider it pure joy when you face trials of many kinds, because the testing of your faith produces perseverance. Like it's the persevering through that where it's like, I know this is hard right now. And that's like through all these injuries when it's really hard, or people have battled cancer, people have battled death, people have battled like loss. And it's like, where can you, like, you're not happy in those moments, but you find joy because you realize like through that you will persevere and you will be stronger and you will be better for it. And it doesn't mean that it takes away, like you're still sad in those moments and you mourn and you're supposed to feel. If through that moment you're like, nope, I'm just gonna choose to be happy after my grandma died, like Like, no, like emotion of sadness and anger, like those are real emotions that we're meant to have. But like you find joy through it, through like, I have persevered through this, and like this has made me stronger. This has built me, and like, just as I continue
joy
on
is
through
an
life.
action. It's not a reaction. It's happiness is a reaction. It's something that it's a result of. It's something that's externally produced. Like, I'm happy because someone gave me a raise, or I got this, or this happened. Joy is something where it's something you created. You intentionally were like, I'm going to be joyful. And it was kind of created and put out. It was gifted. It was given to the world. It wasn't taken. Joy. It wasn't received.
Yeah. And like you were saying, Dylan, like it's harder said than done, because when you are in those deep, dark moments, it's so hard to see it when you're in it. And then you look back and see where you've grown. So like choosing joy, it's like it's okay to sit in that grief or sit in that emotion for a little bit, but just don't stay there. Like, you can be in the pit, just don't decorate it. Like, if we stay there.
That's great. That's great.
Yeah,
I
like
that one. Did you come up with it?
No.
Oh.
I don't even know I don't remember where I saw that, but.
That's magic. I love that. I think magic is going to be my word for the year.
For next year?
It's a rolling calendar. It's
okay.
The fiscal year.
Yeah. That's great. Yeah, joy is awesome, and that's definitely my me word. But magic. What's going to be your word for your trip, Dylan?
Yeah.
Yeah, because theoretically you'll be gone at least a year if everything goes.
Right. That's a good question. I'll need to.
Now.
What are some good words?
Dude, maybe we do the 12
do you already have
noble
planned where
qualities
you
before
go?
I have the start. Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah.
That's magic.
Magic.
I'm gonna really need to
think about that one. Yeah. Yeah, we can't put it. You can't just say it. You gotta think about it.
It's like evolution is. I guess that just popped into my head of like.
Just a change, transformation.
Exactly. Yeah.
Gonna turn into a beautiful butterfly, dude.
Right. I mean, I'll have to, because I'll be by myself otherwise. Like, it'd be so easy to go just sit in your room alone in this hostel where you don't know anybody, but you're going to be so lonely. So you better get out and make friends. Otherwise, I'm going to be
You're going to have
by
so
myself,
much fun. Like I literally was just at the gym tonight, and we were in the sauna with like 10 people. And you think about, we could easily put our headphones on and just focus on ourselves and whatever, which I like doing.
Sometimes you need to.
Yeah. But ended up turning into this conversation, and then everyone just starts talking, and like the community that just builds, in there. And I don't know, that brings a lot of joy, like the smallest little conversation moment. So I think transformation, like, you're going to learn a lot about yourself. You're going to, learn a lot of the things that I'm like, oh, this is a great quality, or man, I didn't realize, like, I
should work on that.
I don't really like this, about, and there's no shame in like where you are, but like, I've had a couple friends that have just gone and traveled the world, and like how much they've grown from it. I don't know if I could ever do that. I want to travel more. I love traveling, but that's so exciting. Like, it's probably nerve-wracking.
Oh, of course, but
yeah.
I did talk to a girl earlier this week who had done it for 13 months. She went out and did it, and
by herself?
Yep.
See, I'm trying to become Katniss. I'm so scared I would be so afraid to do that by myself.
We'll set up the throwing axes in the backyard. I'll get you one step closer to Katniss.
Oh man,
that's awesome. Yeah.
Okay, so one thing we missed is the story of how you broke your foot. We've talked about all the stuff surrounding it, the emotion, but not the actual
just
how.
The nitty-gritty.
Okay, so it's been like a couple years since I played soccer. So I played soccer one time. So 2015 was my last season. I really didn't play soccer, touch a soccer ball, but juggling a couple times. So you'd think like, okay, I get back. I was fearful to play soccer in the sense that like, I just don't want to get hurt again. So I successfully played 2 games of futsal with this group, hurting so bad. And that's not how I broke it. It was like a week or 2 later, I was at a bachelorette party at Voice
Nothing
Box.
but danger. I used to work at Voice Box.
Shut up!
Yes.
So, yeah, bachelorette party at Voice Box.
In April?
100% sober, not a sip of alcohol. I'm wearing Converse shoes. And I have a horrible voice. Like, you won't find me singing. Plus, I barely drink, so sometimes I'm like,
you need a
no one
little
needs to
bit
hear
of
this.
Unearned confidence for karaoke.
Okay, so anyways, I picked my song, I'll Make a Man Out of You.
I was literally singing that last night, and Allie told me to shoosh.
Yeah, so yeah, got a little
midnight.
into it, and I was just running around, and I'm like going across the floor, and my ankle just goes, pew, snapped. Mind you, after one song, I was dancing around for the other songs. I am dripping sweat.
Voice Box is hot.
I radiate heat like nobody's business.
Sauna.
So I'm running around. I snap it really hard just in the middle of the floor, and I was like, ow. Like, that hurt. But I was too embarrassed because I was like, too embarrassed to be like, ouch, I just hurt myself. Like, So I sat up in the corner with my legs like up here, and I tried to straighten. Like, if you roll your ankle really fast, and if I snapped, I'm trying to get my ankle back like this.
Okay.
To whatever. I have the tangerine.
Tambourine.
I kept calling it a tangerine all night. So I was just sitting there playing that for like 15
Way
minutes.
to still contribute, though.
No one knew I did anything.
Yeah.
And I'm sweating. I'm like, man, this freaking hurts. And I told... No one knew. I kept singing. People were laughing at me singing, calling it a tangerine. And then I walk out, go to my car. I had a massage conference all weekend, so Saturday and Sunday, and that was Saturday night.
Were you on your feet the whole time?
So I ended up walking to my car. I'm like, I knew I did something bad. I had paid for this massage conference, so I went back to Boulder, drove up there myself. Luckily, it was my left foot. I had crutches because I've had however many injuries before. So I show up. The whole conference is kind of laughing at me. I mean, it's like 35, 40 people there. They're like, what'd you do? And it was swollen. It was whatever. Then Monday I went in and got x-rays. And I think I saw it before the x-ray tech saw it. I was like, well, there it is.
You aggressively
Well, the X-ray
broke
you
your
showed
foot,
us. I mean, you'd have to be literally blind to not see that it was broken.
I mean, it definitely looked like a tree branch, like snapped, but it didn't go all the way through. So I was like, because I had all these other surgeries.
That insane crack, shatter didn't go all the way through.
No, so like if you saw, there was like a part of the bone that still kept it. And with the doctor, and I got opinions from a lot of people, and they're like, all the professional athletes were like, you're going to get that fixed, right? And I was like, well, I've had so many. I'm not playing right now. I don't want another surgery. It's expensive. I'm just going to let it heal. People say this will heal. So I stayed off of it for a month.
That's how you end up with one of these cool guys.
Oh, goodness, yeah. So, I mean, I ended up staying off it a month, and I got really just antsy in the summer in Colorado. I'm like, all I want to do is play sports.
Time to hurt yourself.
And I think one time, though, actually it was 4th of July. Have you ever been up St. Mary's Glacier? Mm-hmm. Okay, so I crutched up St. Mary's Glacier because I was
that
like,
is an aggressive
I was getting
crutch.
like applauded, and I was like, okay, I kind of want to hide now, but I was just like, I need to get out, and I crutched. I tell people, it's like, if people want a workout program, I have one.
Yeah, if you want to build some serious upper body mass,
go crutch around everywhere. Like, I'd crutch for a workout, I should say, around this lake. So dude. I made fun out. I'm like a pro on crutches, sadly.
I guess.
I mean, race.
I will race you. I will. Let's go.
You.
This girl can crutch up St. Mary's, and you're challenging her to a race. Yes. I don't have.
Worst case
my money's
scenario, she
on Brittany.
wins. She's clearly competitive. I'm gonna have fun because we raced.
Oh man.
All right, that's the Joy Quota drag race.
Yes, a full city block.
I have a lot of fun on those crutches, though. I get a lot of compliments, and they're like, "Wow, you're really good."
We'll do like a triathlon. We'll do like who can balance the longest,
like long
no
jump?
Feet, long jump. All about that. Yeah, Allie was making fun of me the other day.
Like, no, I've tried to balance and see how long I can balance, like holding up.
I'm all
It's
for
a great. Sometimes it's become like a
do a javelin
my little
toss.
arm. I literally am in public and I'm talking and I'm like, oh yeah, pointing over there with my crutch, like it's like an extended arm. Oh, you gotta have fun with it.
Did you put a cup holder on it? Did you get real?
No.
Serious? You can get like a bike cup holder and put
Oh, that would have been a good idea.
a water bottle on there.
No, but probably my most impressive time on crutches. I was actually in Costco with my mom and we were in a hurry, and I lost her in Costco. And I was carrying a bag of mangoes in my hand, crutching.
Yep.
And jardinera, have you ever had? So we got it actually back in Illinois. It's like this huge thing of hot peppers.
Okay.
And Mom was checking out once I finally found her. So I've got this holding here on my crutches. And I had to quickly get to her. So I lift up my crutches and everything and start hopping on my right foot.
Yeah.
And there's like Costco on
just
a Saturday.
Full speed hopping. Just
people are like, this girl's crazy. And my mom's like, no wonder you're always injured. Like, stop. We got to make everything competition. I do.
100%. That's awesome.
So that was fun.
So when did you finally realize, like, all right, it's time to go get this looked at again?
Yeah, after 4 months, I was like, this still isn't. And I was complaining. They're like, you're probably fine now. I'm like, okay, I'm not being a baby, but like, it hurts still. Like, I'll step and it started to like shoot sharp pains.
Foot pain's the worst.
So I got a CT scan and it showed like, that's still not, after 4 months, that should have been healed. And so when I went in, I saw a different doctor, and when he went in for surgery, it was like the bone that had kind of broken off was kind of spongy.
Yeah.
But he checked all my levels and vitamin D and everything. He's like, man, I don't understand. Like, I literally don't understand.
It's probably soft because it's like it hurts worse if I bet the body was just being like, I'm trying to.
Well, and then we were talking about the blood circulation.
It's all blood flow for sure. If there's no blood flow, it's gonna.
I mean, I would be doing the Running Man in my bed to try to warm up my feet at night, and so now I just stick it in a bucket to warm up. So that's definitely part of it. And I iced it a lot because it was so swollen. I mean, it was swollen, not swollen, but like it bruised for. It was like 2 months, month and a half.
Geez.
I'm not kidding. Like not like to the extent that it was.
Did you bruise easily?
Not necessarily.
I like that you just onced over yourself. Like, hey,
do I have like maybe I have some bruises? That's an attack from my crutch though. I mean
those things.
So anyways,
a 2 month bruise is pretty concerning.
I mean it was but I think it's because the blood flow wasn't flowing out. I mean I don't watch TV, and I sat and binge watched, which I never ever do, but Parks and Recreation. I just needed to laugh.
It's the best.
I just needed a laugh, and then I just started to. I'm like, okay, this is the time now. I can do more with like my writing, my book, and blah 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 blah. And I just started just binge watching and laughing, and I think that was a good part of healing, honestly. That I actually
Parks and Rec is one of my many arrows in my quiver for emotional healing.
my family always talked about it. I'd never watched it, so I was like, I'm gonna go ahead and literally watch all.
Literally, yeah. I've probably seen all 7 seasons.
All right, we're gonna go down a rabbit hole of Parks and Rec.
I was gonna say, I use it as like an emotional. No, it's like an emotional healing tool where I'm like, I know for a fact, like, I need a guaranteed laugh.
That or The Office. I like The Office.
And I just want to, like... And I think that's something that... I don't know if everyone always, like, purposefully does that. Like, if I know I've had a rough day, I'm like, I just need to go watch...
I think literally everyone does that.
Well, I never do it.
Because I feel like people always watch, like, a show that they can check out. But it's not necessarily something that's going to make them, like, genuinely giggle, like...
So this is an interesting thought, like saying about that and like wanting to check out. I think one of the things that I never resorted to like drugs, alcohol, all these things, like an addiction. I think maybe sometimes food I would, but I didn't want to, like, if I were to go binge watch something, then in the beginning, it brought me joy. Like, it made me laugh. And I was like, this is fun. If I continued to, then I started to just be like, this is wasting my life. And so, like, the binge watching. So it was like being careful with doing something that brings me joy, but if I almost like abuse it, I start to become dependent, and then I lose the joy that it brought me.
Yeah, it stops being useful.
Yeah, so I'm like, I gotta get, like, sometimes I'll get lost in a book, and I'm like, I'm gonna go read, and I'm gonna read just this much, and then I'm gonna continue off my day. Sometimes I'll go and I'm like, I kind of like use that as a crutch, like, to not do other things is to go read. I enjoy reading, but if I read like for 2 hours, I don't know, it's like I'm using things as a crutch where I'm like, okay, bring me to the point where I'm like, okay, I'm fulfilled in this, and now I'm going to go on. Or else we can get just stuck in like mindless.
The point is like, you've healed me to a point where I can now go continue.
And like it's like something to get us back on track, but then you can almost use that as a crutch to like keep you.
There's a tipping point.
Yeah.
Where you've gone too far. That's something Dylan is always like. He's talked about it before. It's like you just don't have it in you to watch something more than once.
Oh, really?
So like he'll watch like a 15-minute episode. You guys, my wife is here. Isn't she sweet? And he'll just like watch something, and immediately he's like, well, that's done now.
That's good.
And it's never carried on to like a second episode ever.
I've definitely
of anything
done that a couple times, but that's really impressive. That's good.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know. There's times where I will watch like one episode of one show and then a different episode of another show. So I will still be sitting there for the same amount of time. I just not two of the same episodes.
When they just keep rolling over to the next one, and there it goes.
Well, that's their trick. They get you. There's definitely times where I want to, because it's like the ending or whatever. But we should probably wrap up. So our final question is always the same for every guest. What is the first thing that comes to mind when you think of the word joy?
And it doesn't have to be like profound or anything. Like this is just for you.
Joy, I don't know. Just for me, it's just like a state of being, and not even content, but just like, maybe it's content. It's just good with where I'm at. I don't know if that. Yeah, just content with where I'm at in whatever state I'm in.
Heck yeah. Awesome.
Cool. Thank you for joining us.
Yeah, thanks for having me on. It was so fun to finally see you guys again.
I know.
Yeah, it's been a while.
It's been a blast.
Yeah, but love that you guys are spreading joy. The world needs more of it.
We certainly think so.
We're trying.
Yeah.
Yeah.